December 20, 1944. Western Front. Snow drifted across a silent battlefield while deep beneath the ground, a German command bunker glowed with dim yellow light. Officers hunched over maps, listening to frantic radio transmissions. American forces were moving again, but this wasn't a normal advance. It felt like they were being hunted by something relentless, something alive. Every German commander knew the name: George S. Patton. He wasn't just a general in their reports, he was a storm, unpredictable, violent, fast, and terrifyingly effective. Tanks could be destroyed. Soldiers could be stopped. But how do you stop a mind that refuses to slow down or accept defeat? Patton didn't fight the way armies were supposed to fight. Traditional generals planned, calculated, and waited for perfect conditions. Patton believed hesitation was death. He demanded speed. He demanded movement. He demanded momentum that never ended. German commanders were trained to counter logic and predict strategy. But Patton was chaos wrapped in precision. He hit before they were ready. He attacked from directions considered impossible. He didn't simply fight battles, he shattered expectations. German intelligence assessments repeatedly reached the same terrifying conclusion: Patton didn't just command an army, he unleashed one. And armies led with that kind of fury become something far more dangerous than military formations. They become predators. To the German high command, Patton wasn't simply an officer. He was a hunter with armor and artillery. Wherever he appeared, German lines broke faster. Units collapsed sooner. Morale cracked earlier. Reports described his advances as storms, violent bursts of overwhelming momentum. Soldiers often said it felt like Patton's tanks were everywhere at once. German commanders started reinforcing areas not because intelligence required it, but because Patton might show up. Fear became part of military planning. That's when they realized the greatest danger wasn't the number of tanks Patton commanded, it was the fact that he never stopped pushing them forward. And when a commander refuses to slow down, defenders eventually run out of strength. Patton understood something many generals never mastered. War isn't only physical, it's psychological. He didn't just break defensive lines, he broke confidence, he spread rumors, he fed misinformation. He staged movements that confused German intelligence entirely. German command rooms argued constantly, trying to interpret his intentions. Was it a feint? Was it real? Or worse, was it both? Soldiers fear what they don't understand. Commanders fear what they can't predict. Patton created that fear deliberately. Every operation carried his signature unpredictability. Every maneuver challenged logic. He wasn't only winning battles on the map, he was winning battles in the minds of the enemy. By late 1944, German intelligence had quietly agreed on something chilling. If Patton is involved, assume your defense is already weaker than you think. Even when he wasn't on the battlefield, they prepared as if he was. They moved troops unnecessarily, reinforced the wrong areas, hesitated to counterattack. Fear of Patton forced the German military to fight inefficiently. He wasn't just commanding tanks, he was manipulating the enemy's behavior without ever speaking to them. German analysis reports used unusual language for a military document. Patton represents a severe psychological threat. Few generals in history achieved that level of intimidation. Patton had already become more than a commander. He had become a presence. Before Europe, Patton sent the first warning in North Africa. German tank commanders expected clumsy, inexperienced Americans. Instead, they met a commander who moved armor with speed and precision, something only Rommel had been famous for. For the first time, German armored units felt American pressure they couldn't easily shake. They realized the U.S. Army wasn't just learning, it was evolving. And Patton was shaping that evolution. His tactics were aggressive, his decisions were bold. His willingness to take risk shocked German analysts. They remembered that lesson. Unfortunately for Germany, the lesson arrived far too late. Because the man they feared in Africa was about to return in Europe, stronger, sharper, and far more dangerous. Patton despised waiting. He hated static defense. To him, every minute not moving forward was a minute wasted, and wasted time meant lost opportunity. His soldiers marched constantly, trained relentlessly, moved even when they weren't fighting. German intelligence noted that Patton's army behaved differently than others. It never settled, never rested, never showed weakness. That constant motion confused German planners. Most armies revealed predictable rhythms: attack, regroup, pause. Patton removed the pause. His army fought as if exhaustion didn't exist. That terrified Germany. Because a tired army eventually slows down, but an army refusing to slow down breaks your defenses before fatigue can ever help you. German commanders couldn't understand why Patton's soldiers fought with such intensity. Then they learned the truth. Patton didn't just command from behind. He walked the front. He inspected trenches, stood beside tanks, spoke directly to men facing death every day. His presence demanded discipline, courage, and pride. He pushed his soldiers hard, but he also stood with them. German psychological officers later concluded something critical. Patton's greatest weapon wasn't tanks or artillery, it was belief. Soldiers who trust their commander don't just fight, they refuse to break. That meant any army facing Patton wasn't only fighting steel, they were fighting conviction. Many Allied commanders paused, reassessing. But Patton didn't freeze, he didn't hesitate. In one of the most extraordinary maneuvers in military history, he turned his entire army, tens of thousands of men, 90 degrees in brutal winter conditions, and marched directly into battle to rescue trapped American forces at Bastogne. German intelligence didn't believe the reports at first. It simply shouldn't have been possible. But Patton never cared about what was supposed to be possible. He cared about winning. As Patton's forces smashed into the battlefield, German command watched their plans unravel. They had counted on weather-stopping movement. They had counted on logistics failing. They had counted on hesitation buying them time. Patton destroyed every assumption. His army moved faster in winter than most armies moved in summer. His tanks advanced where maps said movement shouldn't be possible. His leadership converted chaos into organized power. German officers realized something deeply unsettling. Patton didn't just overcome obstacles, he ignored them. And when a general refuses to acknowledge limits, every calculation against him becomes unreliable. Captured German officers later admitted their biggest fear: Patton never fought the same way twice. Every other Allied commander followed patterns. Patton broke patterns. Other commanders measured risk carefully. Patton accepted risk, then turned it into victory. His unpredictability forced German commanders to constantly second-guess themselves. Do we commit reserves? Do we retreat? Do we counterattack? By the time they decided, Patton had already made his move, and when an enemy is always one decision behind, defeat becomes inevitable. Inside German headquarters, conversations were no longer calm strategic discussions. They were tense, nervous, often emotional. Maps were redrawn almost daily. Reinforcements were rushed to uncertain locations. Statements repeated over and over again. What will Patton do next? How fast will he arrive? Where will he strike? Patton didn't just command troops, he commanded fear. And fear destroys planning. Fear weakens discipline. Fear breaks armies before battle even begins. German intelligence eventually concluded another hard truth. Patton's power didn't come only from his leadership. It came from the men who followed him. His soldiers believed in him fiercely. They didn't just follow orders, they followed purpose. An army with belief is far more dangerous than one simply fulfilling duty. Every advancing unit carried not just weapons, but confidence. And confidence, especially in war, is devastating. In the end, the German High Command understood something essential. They didn't fear Patton's tanks. They didn't fear his artillery. They didn't even fear his aggressive strategies. They feared the fact that he represented something unstoppable. An enemy who refused to slow down, refused to hesitate, refused to surrender momentum. Patton embodied relentless war, and relentless enemies eventually break anything standing in front of them. When the war finally ended and Germany reflected on its greatest challenges, one name continued to echo among former generals: George S. Patton. He was not just another commander in their memory. He was the storm they never fully controlled, the force they never completely understood, and the enemy they could never predict. Even decades later, many German officers admitted the same truth. Patton wasn't simply feared because of what he did, he was feared because of what he could have done if the war lasted longer.